Welcome back to the QX Financial Podcast for 2024. I'm Charity Allred, and this is Gianco Castroferto. And we are here today. We're going to talk about the circle of wealth and what that means to us and how it impacts our financial journey. So go ahead and talk to us, Gianco. What is the circle of wealth and what does that mean?
Well, thank you, Charity, and welcome everybody back to the QX Financial Podcast. So we want to share with you three very crucial concepts today. And this is not financial advice per se, but this is just to get your mind right about how we as people fit in the whole economic picture, right? So we know that there is a finite amount of resources, there is a finite amount of money and investments and assets and so on that each of us are going to have, right? In economics, we call this the principle of scarcity. All of us cannot have everything at the same time. So I would like you to imagine all the money that you've ever earned in your life up to this point, right? And let's put it inside of a box or inside a circle, right? And let's imagine all the money and all the returns and all the assets and all the things you're going to earn into the future. And let's put all that money inside the circle, what we call the circle of wealth. As you do that mental and imagination exercise, you realize that because it's a circle, there's a finite amount of resources that you ever going to have over your lifetime, right? So before you start your financial planning journey, you'll have to recognize that, again, there's a finite amount of dollars that you ever had the chance to get your hands into, right? You know, Shadi, myself have limited resources. You, the audience, have limited resources. Even the US government has limited resources. That's the way it works, right? For those of you that are more economics oriented, think about your circular graph, right? So you are at some point in this graphical line, but there's a limit. So we call that a circle of wealth. And the first step to having a successful financial plan is to admit and to realize that you cannot make it up tomorrow. It doesn't work. There's a finite amount of resources that we have, and we have time, obviously, that's finite, but also assets and money that we'll be able to have over our lifetime. So we have to make sure that we make a conscious effort to recognize that. So once we recognize that, the next point is, okay, how do I want this finite amount of resources that I'm going to have? How do I want them to be, sliced and diced? How are they going to be budgeted? Who's going to get the benefit of those? Where is the money going to go? Because that's going to determine your future success in retirement and your success today of having a, high quality financial life. So Shadi is going to talk about how the average American really sees that finite amount of dollars, that circle of wealth, get spread over their lifetime.
Your circle of wealth is going to be broken up into three main components. Now, about a third of that circle is already accounted for. Basically, before it even hits your hot hand, you've already had about a third of it that has gone to taxes. So when we look at that circle, all of the money that we have generated, are generating, or will generate, about a third of that is automatically going to go to taxes. And we're not saying this is good or bad, it just is. That's just a fact of life that about a third of that is going to go to taxes. Now we're talking FICA tax. If you are self-employed, then you pay all of the FICA tax. If you're a W-2 employee, then the employer and the employee kind of split that halvesies. You were talking about federal income tax, state income tax. If you're in the majority of the states, the majority of the states have state income tax. Sales taxes, property taxes, if you have the privilege of owning your own property and home. So all of these different taxes tend to add up, and they take about a third of your income. Another third that we tend to see here in the United States is that third that's taken up from debt. So we live in a very consumerism society, where we have been told, and many times it turns out to be true, that we can't really live life without some of these debts. So we're talking about a mortgage. I don't know anyone who can pay for a home without a mortgage. So that is kind of a debt that we have to have. We tend to have student loans. Some people can make it without student loans, most can't. So if you want a higher education, that's kind of a necessity. If you have a car, then you probably have a car loan. And then we talk about credit card debt and personal loans. So, of all these things, many of them we can't really wiggle out of. Some of them we can, and there are other firms that will say, cut up your credit cards and don't do debt, things like that. And sure, it's not something that we really want in our lives, but in most Americans' lives, it just is, just like taxes. It just is. And so about a third of your income is going to be taken up by maintaining and paying off those debts. That kind of leaves us with a third of the income in our lifetime that we can really use to manage our lifestyles. So when we talk lifestyle, we're talking about your grocery shopping. We're talking about buying kids the clothes that they just grew out of last month. We're talking about if you want to go on trips, it comes out of there. So all of these different things, your water and utility bills, all of these other things used to maintain life and to make life better, that's going to come out of your lifestyle. And that, again, to reiterate, is really only about a third of of the income that you're generating.
Exactly right. So when people talk about, okay, I'm saving 10% of my income, sometimes they're really talking about 10% of that third. So the 10% is really like 3.5 or 3.3 something, right? So it's not really all of all their active assets, it's a portion that is left over. Now you might be thinking right now, well, I gotta pay taxes, right? And of course, we have to. It's not the fact that you have to pay the tax. It's not the fact that you gotta buy a car or that you have a rental payment. That's not the issue. The issue is how we're paying for it. You see, the way we're doing it today, it becomes what we like to call a wealth transfer. You go out, earn the money, and then you're giving it away. But you're not just giving away the money, as we discussed in the previous episode with opportunity cost. You're not just giving away the money. You're giving away the money, and also you're giving away all that interest that money could have earned you over your lifetime, right? So where we're going with this is that you want to start thinking of money not as a means of exchange only, but also as an asset that if it's used correctly, can also generate income. So what we're trying to say here is that once you become aware that most of your paycheck and income goes away in liabilities, the question then becomes, is there a way that I could take those liabilities that I have in my budget and turn them into income generating assets? Is that possible? And it is. So we've been talking in this series of videos about the Becoming Your Own Banker IBC concept. And that's the core of the idea, that you're able to make these large purchases, these large expenditures without giving up that opportunity cost, right? That is the core concept. But once again, if you refer back to the drawing that is probably already came up on your screen, and you can see the circular well, so well, that's where we're not succeeding, because all this money is going through all these places, not for the benefit of the individual, but for the benefit of everybody else.
Right. So most Americans are going to look at this circle of wealth, and they're going to be, they might be a little depressed about it. They might be saying, well, no wonder we're still clawing out of this pit. Like, it doesn't feel like I can really get ahead. Well, no, you can't. And the world is kind of designed to be that way. It's kind of designed to put you in that situation. And so, but we also know that for every coin that we have, there's another side. So the other side of this coin is that you can take some of those liabilities and you can turn them into an asset. It just depends on how well you can change your perspective on those debts and how well you can set yourself up financially to be able to take advantage of this concept that we've been talking about.
Exactly right. So I tell people, I tell my clients this all the time, and I'll tell you this. We live in the most sophisticated financial system in the history of the world. And that is a fact, right? But with that comes a challenge. Either you take advantage of the system or the system takes advantage of you. That's really it. So what is the solution to this problem? How can we avoid this wealth or at least minimize or repurpose all of these wealth transfers that our budgets are full of? How can we actually go and build wealth? Well, like I said earlier, the first step is to understand that cash is an asset. So the answer is capitalism. But when I say capitalism, I don't mean it in the political sense of the word. I mean it in the economic sense of the word, which is through the accumulation of capital. That is the only way. We do live in a capitalistic society. As Shadi mentioned earlier, consumption is 70% of the US economy. We're not going to get away from that. That's just the way it's going to be. So it comes down to an individual choice if you want to live a different kind of life and still take advantage of all the great things this time in an era in history, if I can call it that, has to offer. So we're not saying that the only way for you to be financially successful and financially independent is to never enjoy anything and just drink water, and eat from the dollar menu for the rest of your life. Nobody's making that claim. It's not what you buy, it's how you pay for it that makes the difference. In other words, if you want to take 3 vacations a year and you can afford it, be my guest. If you want to, buy the RV or buy the Sea-Doo or whatever, again, go and enjoy life. We're not going to tell you, like other firms and other advisors, where money should go or the lifestyle you need to have. What you're gonna tell us is what you want, and we're gonna show the most effective way to pay for it, so that you're not destroying your future in order to enjoy today. It is possible to enjoy today as you build a fantastic future for yourself and your family. Both can be done. But once again, it goes back to the solution. We have to teach ourselves, and we have to learn how to accumulate, how to protect, how to conserve that capital, and make sure that we keep control of it instead of giving it to somebody else.
That's exactly right. So in a nutshell, we can use the capital at the same time that we're conserving it, and it is through the IBC concept that we've been talking about. Well, thank you, Jonko, for coming and talking with us, and we will be back again next time. And please make sure that if you get any value out of these videos, please like, subscribe, share them with others who might be interested in learning more about the things that we talk about. And we'll see you next time.
Exactly right, Shadi. So thank you guys for your time. I hope these concepts were not too abstract for you. I hope it makes sense. But now we're going to get into the how. Yeah, all this sounds great. I like to save more capital and put my money to work, but how do I actually do that? And that's what we're going to discuss next time. So thank you all, and Shadi, thank you, and we'll see you guys next time.